Hey there, everybody. I am making this video because I have had a countless number of parents reach out to me this week or come into their therapy session and ask what to do about the spelling word lists that are being sent home. My name is Michelle and I am a speech language pathologist. I specialize in working with kids with language literacy disorders, specifically dyslexia. And so I teach them how to read and spell better. And usually what I have to tell the parent is, don't work on these words in any of the way that is listed to work on these words. Like write them 10 times each, or write them in rainbow colors, or write them in sand, or look through a magazine article and find words and then paste them on a piece of paper. That is not enough for our kids that are struggling to read and write and to put sounds and letters together. So the first thing that I want you to do when you get these spelling lists home is I want you to see if your child can read them. You would be surprised as to how many kids come in here with lists of spelling words, and I'll say, how have you worked on these at home? And they say, I write them 5 times each. And then I take my spelling test, and sometimes I get a couple right. But I can't remember them in 2 weeks. And I'll say, all right, read these words for me. They can't read them, okay? So if you're giving a child a spelling word to remember, and you're having them write them, and they're copying them, and they're doing it in sand, but you've never had them read the word, or they can't read the word on their own, you've only read it to them, then when they go to their spelling test on Friday and the teacher reads the word, it's the first time that they're really having to think about, oh, listen, well, these sounds that I'm hearing in the word, now I have to figure out what letters they go with on the paper. What letters do I need to write for these sounds? And so it's really interesting. I had an adult client that I'm working with right now, and this came up in our session this week, and he said, oh, I remember when that would happen to me as a kid, and I would just write them as many times as I could. And then when the teacher said the word on Friday, and let's say the word was rope, that was his example, he'd say rope. Okay, I know that's an R. Let me think about the list in my head, because he was just trying to visually memorize the words without really connecting the letters to the sounds. How many words on my list started with an R? Maybe 1. Okay, let me try to remember how that word looks on the paper. And he would just guess, because no one had taught him to know what sounds are in the word and connect the letters. Okay, so the child has to be able to read the word. If there are words they struggle to read, you need to talk about what sounds that the letters on the page are representing. The second thing you need to do is you need to make sure they know what the words mean. We're always connecting sounds, spelling, and meaning. Okay, so then you should be able to ask them to use the word once they have read it, use it in a sentence. And if they don't know how to use it in a sentence, they don't have a good understanding of what their word means, or sometimes they try to use it in a sentence and you realize that they don't have a good meaning connected to the sounds. And so if that's the case and the teacher uses it in a sentence during the spelling test and it doesn't match the meaning that they have, well, now we're going to be confused again during the test. So we make sure they can read the word. We do a vocabulary check to make sure they understand the meaning of the word. And now we get to look at the word and determine if these words have any prefixes or suffixes on it. Because it's going to be a lot easier, because we have to talk about the meaning of those prefixes and suffixes. Because words that end in past tense ed, it might sound like d on the end, it might sound like t on the end, or it might sound like id on the end. And so that child has to understand that regardless of which of those sounds they hear, if the meaning of the word in the sentence is showing past tense, well, it's going to be spelled ed. So we're going to take apart those morphemes. We're going to review the meaning of the prefixes or the suffixes and how they change the meaning of the base word. And then once you've done all that, I have them read them again, usually. And then I'm still not having them write them 5 times each. Okay, the child still has not written the words at this point. Now what I'm going to do, oh, I got a low battery. Close. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to say the word and have them write it to the best of their abilities without my help. Because if they know the word, I'm not going to make them spend their precious time working on a word that they already know the spelling for. And I'm going to guarantee you that after you take the time to help them read the word, talk about the sounds and letters connection, you talk about the affixes, that their accuracy for spelling has already gone up. So if they have a list of 10 words and they can now spell, a chunk of them correctly without further intervention, don't have them work on those words anymore. Okay? Then you look at the words that were in error and you figure out why they have made that error. Okay? Did they miss a prefix or a suffix? Did they leave out a sound? If the word has 3 syllables, have they represented all the vowel sounds? So you look at why their word is spelled wrong and you talk about the specific sound spelling pattern that is in error. And that is how you work on spelling words with children with dyslexia. Oh, really any child. This is going to work better for any child, but this is what our kids with dyslexia need. This is what they need. Because I'm going to tell you that having them write the word 5 times each, 10 times each, they're just trying to visually memorize the word, and for some of them it'll get them through the Friday test, but they don't know those words 2 weeks later. They don't. Sound, spelling, meaning, we have to connect it for them, and we have to give them a way to work on these words that addresses their areas of deficit. All kids are going to make different kind of errors. We need to figure out why they're having an error, and we need to teach them explicit instruction on how to fix the error. All right. I hope that's helpful. If you're listening to this and you're in my Facebook group, Days with Dyslexia, and you have a spelling word, and then you want to write the way that your child spelled the word, I can help you figure out how to cue them to fix it. Do we need to tell them to sound it out? Do we need to tell them to get all their vowel groups in there? Do we need to talk about a sound letter connection? Do we need to work on affixes? Like, what do we need to do to get that spelling better? That's how you're going to help these kids. Okay, my phone's going to die, so I'm going to stop rambling. I hope that was helpful.